Now that we've returned to the Square Information tab, let's take a look at Toplands. You'll notice that there is a Toplands tab, which is at the top of the page. So simply press the tab, and we can see a list of the Toplands which have been uploaded. On the left side, you'll see a column which will show you the dates that different Toplands have been uploaded. Now, if you're not familiar with a Toplan is a drawing of the square and the loci which are being excavated. Usually this is done at least once a day, sometimes more depending on how many loci are being excavated. If you're only going to dig one locus, then you only need to make one Toplan. But it's recommended that you have a Toplan which shows where every locus was in the square. Because if you don't, then what will happen is that we may not know where the locus was. If there is no written, or there may be written records about what that locus, what color the soil was, and may even have pictures attached, but it doesn't necessarily show us where in the square the locus may have been. I have been working with some files which are from the 1990s. These loci were excavated in 92 and 94 and in 96, and sometimes I don't even know where the old loci were because they didn't make a Toplan, and now I can't figure out what the relationship is between one locus and another locus, particularly if they didn't fill out the data information sheets correctly. So please make sure that you do a Toplan, but talk to your Square supervisor or your field supervisor, and they will let you know what their expectations are. So a Toplan can be done in a number of ways. One of the ways that you can do it is the simple drawing that you see here. So this is a drawing. This is the traditional method. It's done on graph paper, and you can see that it draws it out to the 6 by 6 meter square with the 1 meter balk on the north and the east sides. Then you have a drawing of the locus, in this case locus 19, which is clearly outlined, and the tops and bottoms are included. This is important. So now that's one way to do it, but you can also do it a number of other ways. So you could do something that looked like, let's say like this one here, where you see this is a Toplan, and since the walls didn't move, the Toplan was sort of done digitally, and the information which has been placed in this Toplan has been this way because they are excavating in various rooms. So the walls didn't change, and so you just add the Toplan and include the numbers that represent the locus that you're working on. So this is another method. You can also do a Toplan by shooting a picture, taking a picture, and then using a drawing program to outline where the different loci may be within the square. So that's what this is for. That's what this little column here will give you the dates, and you can select each one and it will show you sequentially. Usually it'll be organized by date. Now on the right hand is a column called the Toplan loci, and what this is a list of all of the loci which are seen on the Toplan. So for example, in this one you can see that you can have locus 10, you have locus 33, you have locus 21, 14, and now I need to add a few because I need to add, say, locus 72. There's wall number 72. Say done, and then the next one, and that's locus number 73, so we need to add locus 73 as well. Now what this does is it assigns this locus, this particular drawing, to each of those loci. So if you go and you look them up, let's say that we go over here to the earth locus, we press the earth button, and we say go to locus number 9, and I look at the Toplan. So I select Toplan, and here I can see a Toplan, and in this Toplan you'll notice that there is a 9, and that's because we're in locus number 9, but there's also locus 3, 5, and 7. What it means is that this drawing will now be seen on the same page for locus number 3, 5, 7, and 9. Now if I were to change this, say we're going to go back to locus number 8, you'll notice that that Toplan is not here. Only the Toplan, which has locus 8 in it, that you can see in the right hand column, will appear on this page. So that's why it's important, and we're going to click the home page now, go back to the square info page, and then we're going to tap on the top plans. So that's why it is important that you fill out this list, making sure that you identify all of the loci which are included in the drawing. So let's take a look at another example here. We're going to now zoom this in so we can view large, and then we can see what loci here. We can see there's locus 17, which is an important one. And see, we have to change it. Now, if you make a mistake, like in this case, we should say locus 17 here. And instead, what I have, it says locus 6. We don't want locus 6 or locus 3, because that's not on here. And locus 2 is not there, just locus 17. So now, how do we add a new top plan? And the way you do that, on the right hand column, you see there is a new button. You select the new button, and what it's going to do is going to give you this blank box. The first thing you want to do is put the date. So in this case, it's automatically going to show us the current date. So we're going to insert the current date. Click outside, or tap outside the box onto the large white square or rectangular shape, and you have a way of importing a picture. The first method is to use the camera. Now, you can use this method, but it's not recommended. And the reason it's not recommended, because if you take a picture, that picture will not be stored on the iPad. It will only be stored in the database. That means it'll only be here. Now, we can export it from here if we need to, but it's a tedious process. So the easiest way to do it is to take a picture of the top plan and then find that top plan in the photos list. So let's go to the all photos. And then we're going to take a look, and there is the top plan that we were looking for right now. And we can see immediately that there is locus 5, 27, and 28. So that means I'm going to go over here to top plan loci. I'm going to put in locus 5. I'm going to put in locus 27. And then I'm going to put in locus 28. There you go. Now, this particular drawing will be assigned to each of those loci. You also want to write a description. In this case, we're going to say this is locus 27 wall debris, or wall tumble, let's call it that, which is just a brief description of what it is that we're looking at. Now, remember, these top plans are generally drawn by the supervisor, square supervisor, but they can be drawn by others, somebody who has particular skill, for example. You can also use a photograph. You can take a picture and you can draw on that picture. Whichever method you choose, make sure that you check with your field supervisor, and then they can tell you what is expected. So let's just take a look at another example. Let's say I'm going to go and I made a mistake. So here's this one that we use. And notice in this example, this top plan was drawn on a computer. It's a computer file, and all we did was just take a picture of it with our camera, with the iPad camera, and you can see it came out pretty well. I wish we could have cropped it, but we couldn't, so this is what we have, and it is actually sufficient. Probably would want something a little more uniform. But let's take a look, and we're going to replace this one instead with a different type. So we're going to hit the replace button here, and we're going to in this go to our photos and hit the photos, and we're going to scroll through and see if we can find a different type of top plan. And the top plan that I'm looking for is a drawing, but on the drawing it's actually going to outline where the loci are. You can see I can scroll through each of these until I find the drawing that I'm looking for. Now, if you have a lot of pictures on your iPad, this could take you a little while, as it is doing now, but eventually we are going to find that particular drawing. So there we go. Here's an example of what I'm talking about right here. So here's an idea of a type of top plan in which it shows me where the loci are in the area. Now, what we would prefer to have, of course, is a picture of the whole square so that we can see the relationship. But since we do have arrows in here, it's very helpful because now we know which way is north. Ideally, you will always face north and then take your picture and then draw, but that's not always possible. In this case, there was actually a wall that was obstructing this area, so there's no way to get in a picture unless you had it on a pole. So this is just another example that you can use as a top plan. But again, check with your field supervisor to determine which is the best method for doing top plans. So let's go back to the Square Info page and look at some other features.